The stars looked peaceful from the bridge of the UES Dauntless. Admiral Taewon Park stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the vast emptiness of space through the main viewport. Humanity had spread to 12 star systems in the century since they'd built their first faster-than-light drive. They had met other species, 6 of them, and made peace with all. Trade routes crossed the local arm of the galaxy. Earth's colonies thrived. Peace had made humans soft, some said. Taewon disagreed. Peace had given them time to build, to grow, to prepare. Admiral, sensors are picking up something strange, said Lieutenant Ju-ri Kim. Her voice was calm, but her fingers moved quickly across her console. Multiple objects entering the system at high speed. Taewon turned from the viewport. Show me. The main display lit up with a tactical view of the Epsilon Eridani system. 12 red dots appeared at the edge, then 20, then 37. They moved in perfect formation. Are they responding to hails? Taewon asked. No, sir. I've tried all standard frequencies and protocols. Captain Hangil Cho joined them at the tactical display. Could be a sensor malfunction. 37 simultaneous malfunctions. Ju-ri shook her head. Not likely, sir. Taewon studied the formation. It wasn't random. It wasn't peaceful. It was a battle group. Sound yellow alert. Wake up the rest of the fleet. Send the first contact package on all channels. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. The UES Dauntless was the flagship of humanity's third fleet, with 4 heavy cruisers and 6 destroyers currently in the Epsilon Eridani system. Not their full strength, but enough to show that humans weren't defenseless. Still no response to our hails, Ju-ri reported. But we're picking up communications between their vessels. The computer can't translate yet. Keep trying, Taewon ordered. And get me a visual as soon as they're in range. 10 minutes passed in tense silence. The unknown ship slowed as they approached the human fleet. Visual coming in now, sir, said Ju-ri. The main screen changed to show the approaching ships. They were unlike anything humans had built or seen before. Each vessel was asymmetrical, with odd bulges and protrusions that seemed to follow no logical design. They were dark gray with pulsing blue lights along their hulls. They're scanning us, reported the sensor officer. Very powerful scans. They're cutting right through our shields, Taewon frowned. That was aggressive. First contact protocols across known space called for light, non-invasive scans only. Send the diplomatic package again, he ordered. All channels, all frequencies. Make it clear we want peaceful communication. The bridge fell silent again as they waited. The alien ships continued their approach, now just 30,000 kilometers away and slowing. Sir, Ju-ri said suddenly, we're receiving a transmission, audio only. Let's hear it. The sound that filled the bridge was like nothing human ears were meant to hear. It screeched and clicked and rumbled with patterns that almost seemed like language but twisted in ways that made several crew members wince. Computer is working on translation, Ju-ri said. It's finding some patterns similar to the Arcturian language family. Keep at it, Taewon said. Send our linguistic database in response. Show them we're trying to communicate. The alien fleet had stopped its advance, holding position 20,000 kilometers from the human ships, close enough to strike quickly, but not so close as to be an immediate threat. Sir, I have a partial translation, Ju-ri announced. It's rough, but I think they're saying... She paused, her expression darkening. They're saying your territories are now property of the collective. Surrender or be eliminated. A cold silence fell over the bridge. That can't be right, Captain Hangil said. No species makes first contact with a demand for surrender. Run it again, Taewon ordered. Before Ju-ri could comply, the tactical display lit up with warnings. Energy spike from the lead vessel, she shouted. There, a brilliant beam of blue-white energy lanced out from the largest alien ship. It struck the UES Daejeon, a science vessel at the edge of the human formation. The Daejeon's shields flared for a split second before collapsing. The beam cut through the ship like it was paper, splitting it in half. Secondary explosions rippled along its hull as atmosphere vented into space. 200 crew members died in an instant. Red alert, Taewon shouted. Battle stations. All ships defensive formation Delta. The bridge erupted into controlled chaos as klaxons blared. The Dauntless's engines roared to life, moving the massive ship into position as the rest of the fleet responded to the attack. Return fire, all batteries, Captain Hangil ordered. The human ships opened fire with railguns and missile batteries. Most of the projectiles splashed harmlessly against the aliens' shields, but a few got through, leaving small scars on their strange hulls. Their shields are adapting to our weapons, reported the tactical officer, effectiveness dropping with each salvo. Another energy beam lanced out, this time striking the destroyer UES Incheon. Its shields held for 3 seconds before failing, allowing the beam to slice off its port engine section. The Incheon is reporting heavy casualties, Juri said, her voice tight. They've lost power to decks 4 through 12. Taewon gripped the edge of the tactical display. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a diplomatic incident. This was an invasion. Send an emergency transmission to Earth Command, he ordered. Priority Alpha. We are under attack by unknown hostile forces. Request immediate reinforcements. As the message went out, the alien fleet began to advance again, spreading out to envelop the human ships. Sir, we have a more complete translation of their message, Juri reported. They identify themselves as the Cole Collective. They claim to have conquered 12 species before us. She swallowed hard. They say resistance is futile and will only result in the complete destruction of our species. Taewon looked at the tactical display. The aliens outnumbered them nearly 3 to 1, with weapons that cut through their best shields like they weren't even there. But he saw something else too. The human ships were adapting, adjusting their shield frequencies, finding weak points in the alien formation. Send to all ships, he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. We are humanity's first line of defense. We will not fall easily. Target their lead vessel with everything we've got. The human fleet responded as one, concentrating fire on the largest alien ship. Missiles streaked across space, railgun rounds hammered at shields, and the few energy weapons humans had developed joined the barrage. For a moment, it seemed to work. The alien flagship's shields flickered under the assault. Then it returned fire, not with a single beam but with dozens striking every human ship simultaneously. The Dauntless shuddered as energy washed over its shields. Shields at 40%, shouted the tactical officer. Hull breaches on decks 7 and 9. Reroute power from non-essential systems, Taewon ordered. And prepare the Thunderbolt protocol. Captain Hangil looked at him sharply. Sir, that's a last resort weapon. It hasn't been fully tested. If not now, when? Taewon asked quietly. As the battle raged around them, the crew of the Dauntless prepared humanity's secret weapon, a device that could generate a localized disruption in spacetime, theoretically capable of tearing apart any ship caught in its field. The aliens pressed their attack, seemingly confident in their victory. They didn't know that humans had one trait above all others. They never went quietly into the night. Thunderbolt ready, sir, reported Juri. Taewon looked at the faces of his bridge crew. Some were afraid, some determined, all ready to do what was necessary. For Earth, he said simply, and gave the order to fire. 6 months had passed since first contact with the Cole Collective. 6 months of retreat, loss, and desperate fighting. General Jiho Lee stood in the war room beneath Seoul, his eyes fixed on the large holographic display showing Earth and its colonies. Red markers spread across the map like a disease, showing collective-controlled territory. Titan has fallen, Colonel Sumin Kang reported, her voice flat with exhaustion. She hadn't slept in 36 hours. None of them had. The mining colony held out for 3 days longer than expected, but they were overrun at 0600 hours. Jiho nodded, his face giving away nothing. Casualties? Total. The collective doesn't take prisoners. The room fell silent. Titan had been home to over 50,000 people. What about Mars? Jiho asked. The defense grid is holding for now, Sumin replied. But the main collective fleet isn't attacking directly. They're bypassing Mars entirely. They're coming straight for Earth, Jiho concluded. He zoomed in on the display, showing the positions of the collective fleet. 83 ships, nearly twice what they had at first contact. They learned quickly. They adapted. They built, but so did humans. Status of the Thunderbolt weapons? Jiho asked. A young officer stepped forward. We've manufactured 26 units based on the data from the Dauntless. They're being distributed to our remaining ships. The Thunderbolt protocol had worked in that first battle, destroying 3 collective ships, including their flagship. Admiral Taewon and the Dauntless had not survived to see their small victory, but they had sent the weapon specifications to Earth before they fell. It won't be enough, said Defense Minister Yoon Ha-bae from the corner of the room. The collective adapts to our weapons too quickly. The Thunderbolt will work once, maybe twice more before they find a counter. Jiho turned to face her. Then we'll find something else. We always do. On the main screen, footage played from the recent battle at Ganymede. The human garrison there had been outnumbered 10-1. They had no hope of victory, no chance of rescue. Yet they fought with a ferocity that shocked even the battle-hardened collective forces. For every human soldier that fell, they took 5 of the enemy with them. "We've intercepted communications from the collective command," said a communications officer, approaching with a data pad. "Our translation is still rough, but they seem confused. Their casualties are higher than in any previous conquest." Jiho took the pad and read the translated message. "These humans do not behave as expected. Previous species surrendered after demonstration of our superior force. Humans fight harder when victory is impossible. They sacrifice themselves willingly to damage our forces. Request guidance on efficient subjugation protocols." A thin smile crossed Jiho's face. "They don't understand us." "Sir?" Sumin looked up from her console. "The collective has conquered 12 species before us. Each one surrendered when they realized they couldn't win. That's what the collective expects." Jiho handed the pad back. "They don't understand that humans don't fight to win. We fight to survive." He turned back to the display and pointed to Earth's orbit. "Deploy the Thunderbolt-equipped ships here, here, and here. Make it look like we're protecting these approach vectors. But that leaves the southern hemisphere exposed," Sumin pointed out. "Exactly. That's where we'll deploy the Phantom Fleet." The room went quiet again. The Phantom Fleet was humanity's best-kept secret. Ships built in hidden facilities on the dark side of the moon. Equipped with experimental stealth technology and weapons systems developed specifically to counter the collective. "Is the Phantom Fleet ready?" Minister Yunha asked. "No," Jiho admitted. "But neither were we ready for this war. We adapt, we improvise, we overcome." He looked around the room at the tired faces of Earth's last defense command. That's what humans do. In orbit around Jupiter, hidden in the radiation shadow of Io, Captain Yunji Huang watched the collective fleet pass by. Her ship, the UES Defiance, was running silent. All non-essential systems shut down to avoid detection. "They didn't even look for us," whispered her first officer. Duyun Park. "They're so confident." Yunji nodded. The collective had good reason for their confidence. In 6 months, they had pushed humanity back from 12 star systems to just Sol. They had destroyed hundreds of ships and killed millions of people, but they had never faced extinction before. They had never fought an enemy with nothing left to lose. "Status of the package?" Unji asked. "Armed and ready," Duyun replied. "Detonation sequence is set." The package was a modified Thunderbolt device redesigned to create a much larger disruption field, large enough to catch multiple collective ships if they could get close enough to deploy it. "All hands to battle stations," Yunji ordered. "Prepare to break cover on my mark." The crew moved quickly and quietly to their positions. The Defiance was a small ship, with a crew of just 38. They had volunteered for this mission, knowing the chances of survival were slim. "Enemy fleet is passing optimal interception point in 3, 2, 1. Duyun counted down. "Mark," Unji commanded. The Defiance roared to life, engines burning hot as it shot out from behind Io. The sudden burst of speed and energy would be impossible for the collective to miss. "They've spotted us," reported the sensor officer. 3 ships breaking formation to intercept." "Just 3? Yunji smiled grimly. "They're underestimating us again." The Defiance accelerated toward the heart of the collective fleet. Warnings blared as enemy weapons locked onto them. "Evasive pattern Delta," Yunji ordered. "Make them work for it." The ship twisted and turned, dodging the first volley of energy beams. One grazed their port side, sending tremors through the hull. "Shields at 80%, reported the tactical officer. "Return fire?" "No," Yunji said. "Save power for engines and shields." "We need to get closer." The 3 collective ships pursued, firing continuously. The Defiance's pilot was good, one of the best, but they couldn't dodge everything. Hit after hit landed, draining their shields. "Shields at 40%, 30%, how close to the main fleet?" Yunji demanded. 2,000 kilometers and closing, Duyun answered. "We need to be within 500 for maximum effect." Another hit rocked the ship. A console exploded, sending a crew member flying across the bridge. "Shields at 15%. Hull breach on deck 3. Yunji gripped her chair as the ship shuddered around her. Stay on course. The main collective fleet grew larger in their view screen. Dozens of ships, each capable of destroying the Defiance with a single concentrated blast. But they held their fire, perhaps curious about this lone human vessel charging toward them. 1,000 kilometers, 800. They're hailing us, said the communications officer in surprise. Put it through, Yunji ordered. The face that appeared on the screen wasn't human. It had too many eyes, 5 arranged in a pentagon, and skin that seemed to shift colors as it moved. When it spoke, the ship's computer translated, "Human vessel, you have demonstrated admirable courage. Surrender now and your crew will be studied rather than eliminated." Yunji laughed. Studied? Is that supposed to be mercy? The alien's eyes blinked in sequence. It is the highest honor the collective can offer a defeated species. We are not defeated, Yunji replied. And we never surrender. She cut the transmission with a gesture. Distance to target? 600 kilometers and closing, Do-Yun reported. They're powering up weapons across the fleet. All power to engines, Yunji ordered. Get us as close as possible. The Defiance surged forward, its engines burning beyond safe limits. The ship groaned under the strain. 550 kilometers. 500. 450. Deploy the package, Yunji commanded. Do-Yun pressed his hand against the biometric scanner. Package deployed. Detonation in 10 seconds, Yunji opened the ship-wide channel. All hands, it has been my honor to serve with you. For Earth. For Earth, the bridge crew echoed. The modified Thunderbolt device activated, creating a rapidly expanding bubble of distorted space-time. It engulfed the Defiance first, tearing the brave little ship apart molecule by molecule. Then it reached the nearest collective vessels. One by one, they twisted and broke as fundamental forces turned against them. When the disruption field finally collapsed, 17 collective ships had been destroyed or crippled. In the war room beneath Seoul, a small cheer went up as they received the sensor data. The Defiance succeeded, Sumin reported. The collective fleet is in disarray. Jiho nodded solemnly. Deploy the Phantom Fleet. It's time to show the collective that humanity doesn't just die. We fight back. The skies above Earth burned. For 3 days, the collective fleet had hammered at humanity's last line of defense. Orbital platforms exploded one after another, raining debris onto the planet below. The remnants of the human fleet fought with desperate courage, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Commander Heian Choi piloted her fighter through the chaos. Her small craft darted between larger ships, dodging energy beams and chunks of destroyed vessels. Once her squadron had 12 fighters. Now only 3 remained. Phoenix 2, watch your left, she called into her comm. Too late. A collective beam sliced through her wingman's ship, turning it into a brief, bright explosion. Heian bit back a curse. That was Do-Yun, who had survived 36 combat missions with her. Gone in an instant. Phoenix 3, form up on me, she ordered, her voice steady despite her grief. Forming up, Commander, replied Sung-Ho, her last remaining pilot. What's the plan? We're almost out of ammo. Heian checked her tactical display. The massive collective flagship loomed ahead, its hull scarred from previous attacks but still operational. Intelligence suggested their Supreme Commander Dae-Hyun was aboard, directing the invasion personally. We're going for the command ship, she decided. With what? Harsh language? Sung-Ho's laugh was bitter. Our weapons can barely dent their shields. We have 1 weapon left, Heian said quietly. Sung-Ho was silent for a moment. Then, the spear protocol? That's a suicide run, yes, another silence. I'm with you, Commander. Heian smiled sadly inside her helmet. I know you are, but I need you to do something else. Fall back to the Seoul defense perimeter. Tell General Jiho that Operation Lazarus is a go. But that's an order, Phoenix 3. Sung-Ho's fighter hesitated, then peeled away. It has been an honor, Commander. The honor was mine, Heian replied. Then she was alone, her small fighter against the vast collective armada. She pushed her engines to maximum, streaking toward the flagship. Collective ships fired at her, but she was too small, too fast, too determined to be hit. Her hands moved across the controls with practiced ease, making adjustments that kept her alive for a few seconds more. As she flew, Heian opened a channel to Earth Command. This is Phoenix 1. I am initiating Spear Protocol. Requesting target confirmation. General Jiho's voice came back, crackling with static. Confirmation granted, Phoenix 1. Target is the collective flagship command center. Coordinates are being transmitted now. A series of numbers appeared on Heian's display, pinpointing the exact location of the flagship's bridge. Received, she acknowledged. Time to Lazarus? 3 minutes, Jiho replied. Can you hold that long? Heian checked her fuel levels. I'll make it work. She cut the connection and focused on flying. The flagship grew larger in her view screen. Its alien design still strange to human eyes even after months of war. Its weapons turned toward her, but she was too close now, moving too erratically for them to get a lock. 2 minutes left. Heian activated the spear device, an experimental drive that would accelerate her fighter to near light speed in a controlled burst. The engineers who designed it had been clear. The stress would tear apart both the ship and its pilot. But before that happened, the kinetic energy would make the fighter into a weapon more powerful than any missile. 1 minute left. Alarms blared as smaller collective ships moved to intercept her. They fired desperately, creating a web of energy beams around her. Heian's hands flew across the controls, finding paths where none seemed to exist. For Earth, she whispered, and activated the spear. The fighter lurched, then shot forward with impossible speed. The G-forces would have killed Heian instantly if not for her specialized suit. As it was, she felt her consciousness fading as her blood was pushed away from her brain. Her last sight was the collective flagship filling her view screen. Her last thought was of home. The fighter hit the flagship's command center at a significant fraction of light speed. The kinetic energy released was equivalent to a small nuclear weapon, focused on a single point. The flagship's shields, designed to stop energy weapons and conventional missiles, might as well have been tissue paper. The explosion rippled through the massive ship, destroying its command and control systems. Secondary explosions followed as power cores overloaded and weapon systems misfired. Across the collective fleet, confusion spread. Their neural network command structure, centered on the flagship, suddenly went dark. Ships lost coordination, firing at random or not at all, and that's when Operation Lazarus began. The seemingly defeated human fleet suddenly powered up dormant. Systems, technology reverse-engineered from the collective's own weapons. Ships that appeared crippled revealed hidden weapons. Orbital platforms thought destroyed activated powerful energy beams. It was a trap, months in the planning. The humans had sacrificed much to make it believable, to draw the collective into position for a killing blow. In the war room beneath Seoul, General Jiho watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. All units execute Lazarus, he ordered. No mercy. The human counterattack was swift and brutal. Collective ships, disorganized without their command structure, fell one after another. Some tried to retreat but found their escape routes blocked by mines placed days earlier. Colonel Su Min approached Jiho with a datapad. Sir, we're receiving transmissions from the collective fleet. They're trying to surrender. Jiho's face hardened. After what they did to our colonies?
To Titan? To Mars?
Sir, if we accept their surrender, we can study their technology, learn their weaknesses, prepare for when they send reinforcements. Jiho was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. Very well. Accept the surrender of any ship that powers down weapons. But keep firing on the rest. Suman relayed the orders. On the display, blue dots representing human ships surrounded the remaining red collective vessels. Some red dots winked out as they were destroyed. Others changed to yellow as they surrendered. Sir, called a communications officer, we're receiving transmissions from the Jupiter Defense Group. The collective reinforcements have arrived. Jiho tensed. How many ships? 23, sir, but... The officer looked confused. They're under attack. By whom? We don't have forces in that sector. Unknown ships, sir. They're not in our database. The main screen switched to show the Jupiter sector. The newly arrived collective ships were indeed under attack, by vessels of a design no human had seen before. They were sleek, almost organic in appearance, with weapons that cut through collective shields with ease. Open a channel to the unknown ships, Jiho ordered. After a moment, the officer reported, Channel open, sir. They're responding. The face that appeared on the screen was alien, but not like the collective. This species had smooth, pale blue skin and large, dark eyes. When it spoke, the translation came through clearly. Greetings, humans. We are the Nari. We have observed your conflict with the Cole Collective. You have done what no other species has managed. You have defeated them in open battle. Jiho straightened. We appreciate your assistance, but why help us now? Where were you when they attacked our colonies? The alien, the Nari, bowed its head. A fair question. We have fought the collective before and lost. We retreated to the edges of known space to rebuild, to plan. When we detected their fleet moving toward your system, we feared another species would fall. But you didn't come to help us then, Jiho pointed out. No, we came to observe. The collective has conquered 12 species before you. None resisted effectively. The Nari's expression changed in a way Jiho couldn't interpret. But you humans, you fought differently. You sacrificed. You adapted. You refused to accept defeat. On the tactical display, the last of the collective reinforcements surrendered or were destroyed. We wish to form an alliance, the Nari continued. Together we can push the collective back to their home systems, free the species they have enslaved, end their threat forever. Jiho looked at Sumin, who nodded slightly. We are willing to discuss an alliance, Jiho said carefully. But first we need to secure our system and count our losses. The Nari bowed again. Of course. We will hold position and await your signal. As the transmission ended, Sumin moved closer to Jiho. Do you trust them? Not entirely, Jiho admitted. But they fought the collective. That makes them potential allies. He turned back to the tactical display where the battle for Earth was winding down. The remaining collective ships had either surrendered or been destroyed. For the first time in months, Earth's orbit was secure. Send search and rescue to all sectors, Jiho ordered. I want a full casualty report. And find me everything we have on these Nari. As the war room burst into activity, Jiho took a moment to look at a small picture he kept in his pocket. His family, before the war. His wife and daughter had been on Titan when it fell. We did it, he whispered to them. We held, and now we fight back. The reports are confirmed, announced Admiral Min Ho-yoon to the assembled military leadership. The collective is in full retreat across all fronts. 1 year had passed since the Battle of Earth. 1 year since Commander Hayen's sacrifice had turned the tide. 1 year of hard-fought victories as humanity pushed outward, reclaiming lost colonies and striking at collective strongholds. The war room was different now. No longer hidden beneath Seoul, it occupied the top floor of the new United Earth Defense Headquarters in Geneva. The holographic display at its center showed not just the Sol system, but dozens of star systems beyond, with blue human-controlled areas steadily expanding. The Nari intelligence was accurate, continued Minho, pointing to a cluster of stars near the edge of the map. The collective's main shipyards in the Protean system were exactly where they said they would be. Our strike force destroyed 60% of their production capacity. General Jiho Lee, now Supreme Commander of Earth's forces, nodded in satisfaction. The alliance with the Nari had proven valuable. Their knowledge of collective territory and tactics had helped humanity plan effective strikes. What about the liberated worlds? Jiho asked. Colonel Sumin Kang, recently promoted after her actions during the Battle of Earth, stepped forward. Mixed results, sir. The Arcturians and Vega Prime colonists have joined our coalition. They're already providing ships and troops. The Centaurian Rigelians are more cautious. They've declared neutrality for now. Can't blame them, said Captain Yunji Huang. They were under collective rule for decades. They're afraid of choosing the losing side. All eyes turned to Yunji. She was a new addition to the War Council, having earned her place through a series of daring raids on collective supply lines. As commander of the newly commissioned UES Vengeance, she had become something of a legend among the fleet. They'll join us when we prove we can win, Jiho said. And we will win. He turned to the tactical display, zooming in on the Tau Ceti system. This is our next target. The collective has established a forward base here, using it to stage counterattacks against our positions in Epsilon Eridani. Their reinforcements are still 3 weeks out, Yunji noted, studying the intelligence reports. If we strike now, we can cripple their supply lines. Minho frowned. It's risky. Our intelligence on their defenses is incomplete. War is risk, Yunji replied simply, and every day we wait gives them time to strengthen their position. Jiho considered this. The young captain was aggressive, perhaps too much so. But her instincts had proven right more often than not. We'll proceed with the operation, he decided. Captain Huang, your Vengeance will lead the attack force. Admiral Yoon will provide support with the 3rd Fleet. Yunji nodded, her face showing no emotion. But those who knew her well could see the fierce light in her eyes. She had lost her entire family when the collective destroyed the Mars colonies. Her drive for vengeance was personal. "There's one more thing," Sumin said, her voice unusually hesitant. "We've detected unusual communication patterns from the Nari fleet. They're sending encrypted transmissions outside our coalition channels." A tense silence fell over the room. "Do we think they're communicating with the collective?" Minho asked. "Unknown," Sumin replied. "Our analysts can't break their encryption, but the timing coincides with our planning for the Tau Ceti operation." Jiho's expression darkened. The Nari had been valuable allies, but he had never fully trusted them. Their appearance at humanity's darkest hour had been too convenient. "Proceed with the operation as planned," he said finally. "But make some adjustments to the details we share with the Nari. Let's see if the collective seems prepared for our actual plan." The others nodded in understanding. It was a test, one that would reveal whether their allies were truly allies at all. 3 days later, Unji stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, watching as her fleet prepared to jump to the Tau Ceti system. The Vengeance was humanity's newest flagship, built with technology reverse-engineered from captured collective vessels. It was faster, stronger, and more deadly than anything humans had created before the war. "All ships report ready, Captain," said her first officer, Lieutenant Sung-Ho Kim. He had been the last survivor of Phoenix Squadron besides Hei-In, and had requested transfer to Yunji's command after the Battle of Earth. "Good," Yunji replied. "Signal the fleet. Jump on my mark." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, preparing the massive ship for faster-than-light travel. Through the viewports, Yunji could see the rest of her attack force. 15 warships of various sizes, all crewed by veterans of the Earth Defense. "Captain," called the communications officer. "We're receiving a transmission from the Nari flagship." Yunji frowned. "Put it through." The main screen lit up with the image of Ambassador Tyree, the Nari representative to the human high command. His pale blue skin seemed to shimmer under the lights of his ship. "Captain Huang," he greeted her, "I wish to inform you that our vessels are prepared to join your attack force. We can be ready to jump within the hour." This was not part of the plan. The Nari were supposed to be supporting Admiral Yoon's fleet, not joining the initial assault. "That won't be necessary, Ambassador," Yunji said carefully. "We have the situation well in hand." Tairi's large eyes blinked slowly. "Are you certain?" "Our ships have weapons specifically designed to counter collective defenses. I appreciate the offer, but my orders are clear. Please maintain your position with Admiral Yoon's fleet." A flicker of something, annoyance, concern, crossed the Nari's face. "As you wish, Captain." "Good hunting." The transmission ended and Yunji exchanged a look with Sung-Ho. "That was interesting," he murmured. "Indeed." Yunji turned to her communications officer. "Send a coded message to Admiral Yoon. The Nari just tried to insert themselves into our attack force." "Yes, Captain." Yunji returned her attention to the task at hand. "All ships prepare for jump. 3, 2, 1. Mark!" Space twisted around the human fleet as the FTL drives engaged. For a brief, disorienting moment, the ships existed in multiple places at once. Then reality snapped back into focus and they were in the Tau Ceti system. "Sensors active," reported the tactical officer. "Scanning for collective defenses." Yunji tensed, waiting for the report. This was the moment of truth. If the Nari had betrayed them, the collective would be waiting in force. "I'm detecting the collective base on the 4th planet," the officer continued. "Orbital defenses as expected. 7 warships in defensive positions." Unji allowed herself a small smile. 7 ships was exactly what their intelligence had predicted. If the Nari had warned the collective, there would be more. "No sign they've detected us yet," the officer added. "Our stealth systems are holding." Another piece of human innovation. Stealth technology that could hide an entire fleet, at least temporarily. It wouldn't last long once they began their attack, but it gave them the element of surprise. "Weapon status?" Yunji asked. "All weapons hot, Captain. New Thunderbolt missiles are armed and ready." The Thunderbolt had evolved since the early days of the war. No longer a suicide weapon, it could now be delivered by missile, creating controlled space-time disruptions that tore through collective shields. "Target the largest enemy vessel," Yunji ordered. "All ships prepare to break stealth on my command." The bridge fell silent as the targeting computers locked onto the collective flagship. Yunji took a deep breath, thinking of Mars, of her family, of all that humanity had lost. For Earth, she said quietly. Fire! The Vengeance shuddered slightly as the Thunderbolt missile launched. It streaked across space, followed by dozens more from the rest of the fleet. The collective ships, caught completely by surprise, had no time to raise their full defenses. The first missile struck the enemy flagship, creating a sphere of distorted space that crushed the vessel's midsection. The other missiles found their targets seconds later. 3 collective ships were destroyed outright. The rest suffered severe damage. All ships, break stealth and engage, Yunji commanded. Don't let any of them escape to warn the reinforcements. The human fleet surged forward, weapons blazing. The remaining collective vessels fought back desperately, but they were outmatched and disorganized. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Yunji watched with grim satisfaction as the battle unfolded exactly as planned. The collective had not been warned. The Nari, whatever their true motives, had not betrayed this operation. Captain, called the communications officer, we're intercepting transmissions from the collective base. They're calling for help. Jam those signals, Yunji ordered. Nothing gets out. As her fleet closed in on the collective base, Yunji allowed herself a moment of reflection. The war was far from over. The collective was vast, with resources spread across hundreds of star systems. But for the first time, they were facing an enemy that refused to be conquered, that adapted to their tactics, that struck back harder with each attack. For the first time, the collective was learning what it meant to fear. Supreme Commander Dae-hyun limped through the grand hall of the Collective Council. His body still bore the scars from the destruction of his flagship 2 years earlier. He had barely escaped with his life, one of only 23 survivors from a crew of thousands. The memory of that day, of the small human fighter that had somehow torn through their defenses, still haunted his dreams. The council chamber was vast, designed to impress and intimidate. Curved walls rose hundreds of meters to a domed ceiling that showed the stars beyond. In the center, 12 massive chairs formed a circle, each occupied by a council elder. They watched Dae-hyun's approach with cold, multifaceted eyes. Supreme Commander, said Elder Junseo, his voice echoing in the chamber. You have been summoned to explain the current state of the war. Dae-hyun bowed low as protocol demanded. Honored elders, I come as ordered. Then speak, commanded Junseo. Explain how this happened. No species has ever resisted us for more than a standard cycle. These humans have not only resisted, they are winning. The accusation hung in the air. Dae-hyun straightened, facing the council with as much dignity as he could muster. The humans are unlike any species we have encountered, he began. When we kill one, 10 more take up arms. They sacrifice themselves willingly to ensure their collective survival. They adapt to our tactics faster than we can implement them. Excuses, hissed Elder Sujin, the oldest member of the council. We gave you resources, ships, troops, the finest technology in the galaxy. And still you fail. Dae-hyun's 4 hands clenched at his sides. With respect, Elder, those resources came too late. In the beginning, we underestimated the humans. We thought them weak because they sought peace with other species. We thought them soft because they valued individual lives. He activated a holographic display, showing the current state of the war. Red areas marked collective territory. Blue showed human-controlled systems, and yellow indicated the territories of their allies. The blue and yellow had spread alarmingly far. We have lost nearly 40% of our fleet, Dae-hyun continued. 8 previously conquered worlds are in open rebellion, inspired by the humans' example. The Nari, whom we thought destroyed decades ago, have returned to fight alongside them. And whose failure is this? Demanded Junseo. It is mine, Dae-hyun admitted. I underestimated them. But so did we all. We believed our pattern of conquest was inevitable, that all species would break when faced with superior force. He changed the display to show footage from various battles, humans fighting with desperate courage, human ships ramming larger collective vessels, human soldiers holding positions against impossible odds. They do not break, Dae-hyun said simply. They bend, they adapt, they evolve, but they do not break. The council chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. For millennia, the collective had expanded unchallenged, believing themselves the supreme power in the galaxy. Now they face the possibility of defeat, perhaps even extinction. What do you propose? Asked Elder Minji, speaking for the first time. Unlike the others, her tone held curiosity rather than accusation. Dae-hyun took a deep breath. What he was about to suggest was unprecedented in collective history. We must sue for peace, he said. Outrage erupted among the elders. Several rose from their seats, their skin changing colors with emotion. Peace? Surrender? Junseo's voice rose above the others. The collective does not surrender. Then the collective will die, Daehyun replied bluntly. The humans have united 17 species against us. They grow stronger with each victory. They learn from each defeat. If we continue this war, we will lose everything. You speak treason, hissed Sujin. I speak truth, Daehyun countered, and you know it. Our latest intelligence reports that the humans and their allies are preparing a major offensive against our core systems. They have weapons now that can match or exceed our own. They have numbers that rival ours. And they have something we have never had. A cause they believe is just. He changed the display again, showing the human homeworld. Earth. A beautiful blue-green planet that had seemed so vulnerable when the collective first approached it. I have studied them, Daehyun continued. Their history is filled with war. They fight among themselves constantly. But when faced with an external threat, they unite. They set aside their differences. They become something greater than the sum of their parts. Elder Minji leaned forward. And you believe they would accept peace? After what we have done to their colonies? I do not know, Daehyun admitted. But I believe they will listen. They value life, even the lives of their enemies. It is both their greatest weakness and their greatest strength. The council fell into debate, voices rising and falling as arguments were made and countered. Daehyun stood silently, waiting for their decision. After what seemed like hours, Junseo raised a hand for silence. We will consider your recommendation, Supreme Commander, he said, his voice cold. Until then, you will continue to defend our territories as best you can. Daehyun bowed again. As the council commands. As he turned to leave, Elder Minji spoke again. Commander, one question, he paused. Yes, Elder. If you were human, would you accept peace with us? Daehyun considered the question carefully. If I were human, I would demand justice for my dead. But I would also seek to end the killing. Their history suggests they prefer building to destroying, when given the choice. Minji nodded slowly. Thank you for your honesty. 3 days later, a collective diplomatic vessel approached Earth under a flag of truce. It carried Daehyun himself along with 3 junior diplomats. They had no weapons, no shields, nothing that could be perceived as a threat. They came with a single message. The collective wished to discuss terms of peace. The human response was cautious. They directed the collective ship to a space station in neutral territory, where representatives from Earth and its allies waited. Daehyun felt strange as he walked into the negotiation chamber. For the first time in his long career, he came not as a conqueror, but as a supplicant. The humans could destroy his ship at any moment. They could kill him and no one would blame them. Yet here he was, trusting in their restraint. General Ji-ho Lee led the human delegation. His face showed no emotion as Daehyun entered, but his eyes were hard, calculating. Supreme Commander, Ji-ho greeted him formally. You come seeking peace. I do, Daehyun confirmed. The collective recognizes that this war benefits neither of us. Ji-ho's expression didn't change. This war benefits no one, but it was not we who started it. No, Daehyun agreed. That responsibility is ours, as is the responsibility for the lives lost. A murmur ran through the human delegation. This admission of guilt was unexpected. Why now? Ji-ho asked. You still hold significant territory. Your forces are still strong. Because we have learned something, Daehyun said simply. Something that 12 previous conquests did not teach us. We have learned that some species cannot be conquered, that some will fight to the last rather than submit. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each delegate in turn, human Nari, and representatives from other liberated worlds. We have learned respect, he finished. Ji-ho studied him for a long moment. Respect is a beginning, he said finally. But peace requires more. It requires justice, reparations, guarantees. We are prepared to discuss all these things, Daehyun assured him. The negotiations lasted for weeks. They were difficult, often heated. The collective was forced to make concessions it would have found unthinkable before the war. But in the end, a treaty was signed. The fighting stopped. As Daehyun prepared to return to collective space, Ji-ho approached him privately. A question, Commander, the human said. One that has bothered me since you first came seeking peace. Ask, Daehyun invited. Why did you attack us? We had done nothing to threaten you. Daehyun was silent for a moment. Because it was what we had always done, he said finally. For thousands of years we expanded. We conquered. We absorbed. It was our purpose, our identity. We never questioned it, and now? Now we must find a new purpose. Daehyun looked out at the stars. Perhaps in time we can learn from you. Learn to build rather than destroy. Jiho nodded slowly. I hope so. For all our sakes. In the decades that followed, a new galactic order emerged. The collective withdrew to its core systems, its days of expansion over. The species it had conquered claimed independence, forming their own alliances and federations. And humanity stood at the center of it all. Not as conquerors, but as mediators, explorers, builders. A simple message spread through the stars. Reaching every world the collective had once terrorized, the humans fought back. No one who fought them returned unchanged. It was both a warning and a promise, a reminder that in the vast darkness of space, there was at least one species that would always stand against tyranny, that would fight not for conquest but for survival, for freedom, for the right of all beings to chart their own course among the stars. And if the need arose again, they would not stand alone.